TUPAC arrives at the Pentagon for a troop concert when Colin Powell confronts him. "You don't know what sacrifice for your country looks like." The chairman of the Joint Chiefs just questioned a rapper's patriotism on military soil. What happens next surprises everyone. TUPAC's calm reply doesn't just educate Powell about different forms of service. It reveals something about freedom, protest, and true patriotism that transforms the general's entire perspective. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to watch until the very end. What General Powell admits in the final moments will completely change how you think about patriotism and protest forever. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. We share these powerful stories regularly. Now let's see how TUPAC schooled America's most powerful military leader. The Pentagon, Arlington, Virginia, July 4, 1994. Independence Day, at the most secure building in the world, where five-sided walls contain corridors that have witnessed conversations between presidents and generals, where America's military power gets planned and executed, where decisions affecting global security are made behind blast-proof doors that could withstand nuclear attack. Today isn't about war planning, or strategic meetings, or classified briefings that reshape world history. Today is about entertainment for the troops, a rare concert inside the Pentagon's inner courtyard, organized to boost morale for soldiers preparing for overseas deployment to places where they might not return from. The setting couldn't be more symbolic. The building that houses America's military might, where generals plan operations that reshape international boundaries, where the Secretary of Defense sits in meetings with Joint Chiefs whose combined experience spans decades of global conflict. And today, a rapper from Oakland is walking through its halls, past portraits of military heroes whose names are carved into monuments, through security checkpoints that would stop world leaders. TUPAC Shakur, 23 years old, moves through corridors lined with the kind of security that protects America's most vital secrets. Metal detectors sensitive enough to find a paper clip, background checks that probe 3 generations deep, clearance levels that separate those who serve from those who simply work. He wears simple black jeans and a white t-shirt, no flashy jewelry, no gang colors, no indication that he's one of the most controversial artists in America. Just a young black man in the most powerful building in America. The irony isn't lost on him. 2 hours earlier, he was in Oakland, in neighborhoods where police helicopters circle like mechanical vultures, where young men his age get shot for wearing wrong colors in wrong places, where military recruiters set up tables in high school cafeterias, promising escape from poverty through service to country that doesn't always serve the communities these recruits come from. Now he's inside the Pentagon itself. Security escorts guide him through checkpoints that would stop heads of state, past guard stations where armed soldiers stand at attention. The kind of security that protects America's most vital secrets, the plans and strategies that keep the nation safe from enemies foreign and domestic. But today they're protecting a concert, entertainment for troops who understand what it means to put your life on the line for principles you hope your country actually lives up to. The backstage area buzzes with nervous energy, a mixture of anticipation and uncertainty that comes when controversial figures enter controlled environments. Sound technicians test equipment that costs more than houses, adjusting levels on mixing boards with more controls than airplane cockpits. Everything perfect for a show that will exist only in memory. TUPAC reviews his setlist with the kind of attention he usually reserves for studio sessions, songs carefully chosen for military audience that might not understand his usual references. No profanity that might offend conservative sensibilities, no explicit violence that might seem inappropriate for people who deal with actual violence, no lyrics that might be considered unpatriotic by people who swore oaths to defend America with their lives. But something feels wrong about sanitizing his message for military consumption, about editing his truth to make soldiers comfortable when soldiers deal with uncomfortable truths every day. That's when the door opens, with the kind of authority that makes everyone in the room straighten unconsciously, even people who aren't military, even civilians who have never served, but recognize the presence of someone who commands respect through decades of earning it. And America's most powerful military officer walks in like he owns not just the room but the building, the Pentagon, maybe the entire concept of American military power. General Colin Powell, 57 years old, 4 stars gleaming on shoulders that have carried the weight of American military leadership through conflicts spanning continents and decades. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the man who planned Operation Desert Storm, who commands every branch of American military with authority earned through competence rather than politics. He wears dress uniform covered with ribbons telling stories of courage under fire, bronze star with combat V, purple heart for wounds received in enemy action. Each ribbon represents time spent in places where people try to kill you. A black man who rose through military ranks when racism was military policy, who earned respect through competence in a system designed to exclude him. Someone who understands what it means to serve a country that doesn't always serve people who look like him. Powell approaches TUPAC directly, cutting through the backstage area with purpose that suggests this isn't coincidental encounter, but planned confrontation. No small talk, no celebrity greeting, no acknowledgement of the entertainment value that brought TUPAC here. Just direct eye contact that feels like evaluation, the kind of assessment that military leaders make when determining whether someone can be trusted with responsibility that affects other people's lives. His voice carries authority earned through decades of command, the tone that generals use when questioning subordinates about mission readiness. He asks TUPAC if he understands where he is, not geographically but symbolically, what it means to perform on Independence Day inside America's military headquarters. The significance of entertaining troops who are about to risk everything for American freedom, the honor being extended to someone from his background and with his reputation, the responsibility that comes with having platform in front of people who volunteered to die for principles that TUPAC's music sometimes questions. TUPAC nods respectfully, acknowledging the honor and expressing appreciation for the opportunity. He says he understands the gravity of performing for military personnel, the privilege of being inside the Pentagon, the respect he has for people who serve in uniform. But Powell isn't satisfied with polite responses that sound rehearsed and safe. His next question cuts deeper, challenging not just TUPAC's presence but his perspective. He asks if TUPAC truly comprehends what sacrifice means to people in uniform, whether someone who makes millions singing about street problems understands real hardship that soldiers face, whether a rapper who criticizes America appreciates the blood that gets spilled protecting his right to speak that criticism, whether someone who profits from controversy understands the cost of defending the freedom that makes controversy possible. Then Powell delivers the line that changes everything: "You don't know what sacrifice for your country looks like." Not a question but a statement, delivered with authority that comes from decades of military service, backed by ribbons that represent actual sacrifice, spoken by someone who earned the right to question other people's patriotism through his own demonstrated commitment to defending America. The backstage area goes completely silent, in ways that have nothing to do with sound levels and everything to do with tension that makes breathing difficult. Sound technicians freeze mid-adjustment, uncertain whether to continue working or witness whatever happens next. Nobody speaks when 4-star generals are delivering challenges, particularly challenges about patriotism delivered on military soil on Independence Day, to someone whose patriotism is being questioned. America's highest military officer just questioned a civilian's patriotism in front of witnesses who understand hierarchy, who know that generals don't make casual accusations, who recognize that this confrontation carries implications about art and authority, about criticism and loyalty, about what forms of service deserve recognition and respect. TUPAC doesn't respond immediately because responding immediately would be reacting rather than thinking, would be defensive rather than thoughtful, would miss the opportunity to turn confrontation into education. He processes the challenge, the setting, the man delivering it with ribbons that chronicle actual sacrifice, actual service, actual commitment to defending America through methods that TUPAC has never experienced, and Powell assumes he could never understand. This isn't some politician grandstanding for cameras or media attention. This is Colin Powell, genuine war hero, whose service record speaks louder than campaign speeches. Someone who earned respect through action rather than words, whose criticism carries weight because his sacrifice is documented in blood and medals and years spent leading people in situations where leadership mistakes get people killed. But Tupac also recognizes something else in this moment, something that goes beyond personal insult to reveal larger questions about different definitions of service, different forms of sacrifice, different ways to serve your country. About whether patriotism means only military service or includes other forms of commitment to American ideals. When Tupac speaks, his voice carries no anger, because anger would validate assumptions about respect or discipline. No defensiveness, because that would suggest the accusation might be valid. Just quiet certainty that makes everyone lean forward, because quiet responses to loud challenges often carry more power. He asks Powell a simple question that reframes the entire conversation. What does sacrifice look like to a 16-year-old kid who gets shot walking home from school because he lives in the wrong neighborhood, attends underfunded schools in communities that look like war zones? The question hits the room like artillery fire because it's not defensive, but offensive, not reactive but proactive. Powell's confident expression shifts because this isn't the response he expected. Tupac continues with voice that never rises, but somehow fills the entire space. What does serving your country look like when your country treats your community like enemy territory? When police departments operate like occupying armies? When schools in your neighborhood get less funding than military bases overseas? When young men choose between military service and street corners, not because they love violence, but because economic opportunity doesn't exist? Powell listens without interrupting, because military training taught him to gather intelligence before responding, to assess situations completely before making tactical decisions. But this conversation isn't following military protocols. This is intellectual combat between two men who understand that ideas have consequences, that assumptions shape policies. Tupac explains that his music serves communities that America often forgets exist, neighborhoods where patriotism means demanding that America live up to its promises rather than accepting promises as sufficient, where loving your country means refusing to accept second-class citizenship, where sacrifice means speaking truth that makes comfortable people uncomfortable. He talks about his mother, former Black Panther, who believed America could be better, who sacrificed safety fighting for civil rights that military members now protect overseas, while those same rights remained contested at home. Revolutionary, who understood that questioning government failures isn't unpatriotic, but represents the highest form of citizenship. Tupac explains that his criticism of America comes from love rather than hatred, from wanting the country to fulfill its founding promises rather than abandoning those promises as unrealistic or outdated, from believing that America is strong enough to hear hard truths about itself, from understanding that real patriotism means demanding justice rather than just pledging allegiance to symbols that represent ideals that haven't been fully realized. The room stays silent throughout his response, which lasts nearly 10 minutes without interruption from anyone including Powell, who processes arguments he wasn't prepared to hear because they challenge frameworks he's operated within throughout his career. This wasn't the conversation he intended to have when he walked into this room. He expected to lecture a young rapper about respect and responsibility. Instead, he's hearing sophisticated analysis of citizenship and service and sacrifice from someone whose perspective he never considered legitimate. Tupac's final point hits hardest because it forces Powell to confront assumptions about military service that he's never questioned. He asks Powell whether soldiers fight for America as it is or America as it could be, whether military service protects current conditions or defends the possibility of change, whether freedom includes the right to protest or just the right to comply, whether true patriotism means accepting your country's failures or working to fix them. Powell realizes he's not arguing with an unpatriotic rapper who doesn't understand sacrifice or service or love of country. He's debating with someone who understands America differently, someone whose service to community takes different form than military service, but carries different risks and serves different populations with different needs. Someone whose sacrifice involves different dangers than combat zones, but includes real costs for speaking truth that makes powerful people uncomfortable. The conversation that follows lasts 45 minutes and transforms both men's understanding of service and sacrifice and patriotism in ways that neither expected. Powell shares his own experiences with discrimination within military ranks, the battles he fought just to earn respect in uniform, the balance between serving institution and challenging its failures. Tupac talks about communities where military recruitment targets poverty, where young people serve country abroad while their neighborhoods get ignored at home. Both men discover common ground, neither expected. Both face discrimination in systems they chose to serve. Both understand what it means to represent more than yourself when you achieve success. Both love America enough to want it to become better, rather than accepting current conditions as adequate. The difference is their methods rather than their goals. Powell serves through military hierarchy. Tupac serves through artistic truth-telling. When the concert begins, Powell stays to watch, curious to see how soldiers respond to music he's never understood, but now respects as different form of service to different population with different needs. He sees young troops connect with Tupac's music in ways that suggest shared experiences, common struggles, mutual understanding of what it means to sacrifice for country, while hoping country will change. After the show, Powell approaches Tupac privately and acknowledges that his initial challenge was based on incomplete understanding of what service means, what sacrifice looks like, what patriotism requires in democracy that depends on both military protection and civilian engagement. That service takes many forms, that patriotism includes dissent, that questioning America's failures might strengthen rather than weaken national character. July 4, 1994, at the Pentagon, America's top general learned that patriotism comes in many forms, that service extends beyond military ranks, that loving your country might require questioning it rather than simply defending it. The day Colin Powell questioned Tupac's patriotism became the day he discovered that protest and loyalty aren't opposites, but partners in making America worthy of the sacrifices made in its name. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.